The first effects of Hurricane Floyd are being felt along the southeast coast tonight as people flee inland.
And I'm Jeff Morrow in Charleston, South Carolina, where we've already had the first heavy rain squalls move through. I'll have a live update in just a moment.
And speaking of heavy rain squalls, we're right in the middle of one here in Melbourne. I'm Jim Cantore. We'll give you a live report and talk to the city manager of Melbourne in just a moment.
Good evening, I'm Paul Goodlow, and welcome to this special edition of Weather Center. I'll have the nation's weather from coast to coast, but Hurricane Floyd is of greatest concern tonight. Christina Abernathy is in the forecast center with an update.
All right, thanks, Paul. And of course, Hurricane Floyd continues to lurk just off the east coast of Florida. All eyes are on Floyd, and 5 states are on alert right now. As a matter of fact, in Florida, hundreds of thousands of residents clogged roadways trying to heed evacuation orders and flee the storm. For the first time ever, Walt Disney World closed because of the weather. In Georgia, a 90-mile stretch of Interstate 16 has been closed to eastbound traffic, so people heading inland from Savannah could use every lane. Georgia Governor Roy Barnes has activated that state's National Guard. And in South Carolina, state offices in areas affected by Hurricane Floyd will be closed on Wednesday. Earlier today, the governor ordered a mandatory evacuation of hundreds of thousands in coastal areas, and airports along the South Carolina coast are canceling flights. The last flight out of Charleston International is at 9:30. Meantime, hurricane watch stretches north to North Carolina, where some residents are still drying out from Hurricane Dennis. In that state, residents of Ocracoke and Bald Head Islands are also being urged to evacuate. And even Virginia residents are bracing for Floyd. Governor Jim Gilmore has declared a state of emergency there. So, again, a lot of folks are going to be potentially impacted by Hurricane Floyd. Let's take a look at some of the details associated with where it's located, centered at 27.1 north, 77.6 west. That puts the center about 205 miles east-southeast of Cape Canaveral, Florida. The winds are still holding at 140 miles per hour, so it's still a Category 4 hurricane. It's moving to the north-northwest at 12 miles per hour, and the pressure is up a bit to 934 millibars. We still have those hurricane watches and warnings in effect. The warnings for the northwest and central Bahamas and from Boca Raton, Florida, northward to Little River Inlet. Then north of there to Cape Charles Light, Virginia, we have hurricane watches in effect. Tropical storm warnings, Florida City, Florida to Boca Raton, and heavy surf advisories from Cape Charles Light to Montauk Point, New York. So it looks like we are going to see the potential for some very widespread effects associated with Hurricane Floyd. We've got crews on the scene along the southeast coast, including our own Jim Cantore, who is in Melbourne, Florida, and Jeff Morrow, who joins us from Charleston, South Carolina. And Jeff, we'll start with you. What's the latest?
All right, Christina, well, basically it's been a day of evacuation. The mandatory evacuation went out at about noon from the governor. It was a voluntary evacuation a little bit earlier in the day. Then it became mandatory, and everybody, almost without exception, heeded the evacuation. Now, that did cause some big problems on some of the roadways as everybody tried to get out at once, but at least it was at least 24 to 36 hours before this hurricane was due to make some kind of an impact here. Hopefully not a bad one here in South Carolina, but of course that is still a very real threat. When you compare this one to Dennis just 2 weeks ago, it was quite the opposite. A lot of people were headed down toward the coast to watch the waves. They weren't all that terribly concerned, but it's much different this go around with Hurricane Floyd. Residents are boarding up, packing up, and gassing up as Hurricane Floyd looms off the coast of South Carolina. While landfall was more than 24 hours away, the mood for Hurricane Floyd is very different from that of Dennis.
A week and a half ago when Dennis was here, everybody was coming out this way to watch the storm, watch the waves. It was a zoo out here. People just lined up on the wall watching the water. And if you look around now, it's real quiet. Everybody's leaving, everybody's afraid of this one.
Although Floyd is still miles away, the order to evacuate has already been given.
You're supposed to leave, and I would suggest that they do get out. The storm's very intense and a very fierce storm, so I would suggest very strong that you get out.
Hurricane-savvy residents aren't wasting any time getting to safety.
Yeah, we've been here through Hugo, and that was devastating, so we want to do it again. So we're leaving.
Fueling up, gonna go home and grab a few things and head west.
And of course, everybody here is hoping that we don't have another repeat of Hugo, or potentially even worse, as this hurricane heads in this general direction. Right now, some of the effects of this Hurricane Floyd are being felt in Florida. Some of the first big rain squalls moving through Melbourne, and Jim Cantore has that story. Jim?
That's right, Jeff. The rain and the wind just continuing to hammer in here in the Florida coast. And sure enough, the good news is everybody is pretty much ready for that. I want to take you and show you Melbourne Harbor just a little earlier on today, where we did have the wave action from Floyd already cranking up here. And with that wave action, of course, we had a lot of rocking of the boats, regardless of size. Small craft, large craft, these boats were rocking as a result of these waves here in the harbor. And unfortunately, a small boat did suffer a casualty there, as the owner of that boat did decide to take the motor off the boat. And because the waves were big enough, they actually kind of got into the boat, and the water weight, of course, has allowed that boat to sink. Well, how is Melbourne faring tonight? Let's find out. We've got the city manager of Melbourne, Henry Hill, and he's with us tonight. Henry, give us an idea of how everybody's doing tonight here in Melbourne.
Well, we're a lot happier that we're hearing that the Lord's going to slide past us a bit, but that's no cause for joyousness, because obviously a lot of ways to go, and we still have to take this very seriously.
We're starting to hear of people leaving the shelters tonight. You probably wouldn't recommend that.
No, we don't recommend that at all. I mean, this is still a serious situation. You still have lots of potential for wind gusts. You still have lots of potential for heavy rains, and flooding is still a possibility.
We were talking earlier about Aaron, even though, that wasn't even half the storm this is. There were some problems after the storm went by the next morning.
Yes, in fact, in 1995, when Aaron went through, it was the next day, well into the afternoon, when the backside of the storm got us with 11 inches of rain inside of 2 hours, and it caused serious flooding problems. We thought we were out of the woods, and all of a sudden we're dealing with a flooding situation.
All right, let's hope we don't see a repeat performance of that. Thank you very much, Henry. Again, folks, just batten down the hatches. It's an ugly night to head out, to be quite honest with you. So just stay at the shelters tonight and ride this one out, and hopefully things will be much improved tomorrow morning. But the worst of this storm is expected between midnight and tomorrow morning. We'll keep you posted. Right now, let's go back to you, Christina.
All right, Jim, thanks a lot. Well, now we want to take a look at an in-depth analysis of Hurricane Floyd. For that, we go to our hurricane expert, John Hope.
Thank you, Christina. Good evening, everybody. Well, the hurricane continues to move toward the north-northwest. That's the one big change we've seen ever since late afternoon. It's been moving more north than it has west. It continues to do that. I believe the last reconnaissance fix we have suggested it might be a little bit faster. As you can see, it is now past Abaco Island, the Great Abaco and Little Abaco, which got a fierce battering from this hurricane during the afternoon and early evening. And now the eye looks a little bit distorted, and it's a very large eye. The reconnaissance folks tell us it's about 50 miles now in diameter. As a matter of fact, earlier on, there was an inner eye forming. Sometimes they do that. They get concentric eyes. They get a smaller eye forming within the bigger eye, but on the last report, that eye had dissipated. But we don't see a whole lot of change in the movement, and it's really good news for some folks in Florida, because it's past now the latitude of Miami, it's past the latitude of Palm Beach, and once the eye or center of the hurricane gets past your latitude, moving north-northwest as it is, it gets farther away from you, not closer, so that's good news. And we don't see an awful lot that makes us believe that it's going to draw very much closer to the coast over the next few hours, although indeed we have to watch that very carefully because it's too severe a hurricane to take any chances with at all. Let's show you a different vantage point here in the satellite picture, and this is a long loop, and you can see what's happened over about the last 24 hours or so. It was way down here just west of Eleuthera last night, and now it's moving mainly toward the north and toward the northwest, and it looks as if that track is going to continue. We also would like to say that we think it's going to begin to move a little bit faster certainly by tomorrow morning than it has been. So that isn't going to give an awful lot of time to finish your preparations up farther north, say along the coast of South Carolina and beyond. We have hurricane warnings, as you know now, that extend over the entire coastline of South Carolina. Now, the radar shows us that some of these rain bands that we've been experiencing up here, Jim Cantore, and there's the eye of the hurricane, and some of the main rain shield is coming ashore now from up around Cocoa Beach in Melbourne down to about Fort Pierce or so, and that's going to continue to move west as time goes by. So that'll wrap it up for us this time. Now back to Christina in the Forecast Center.
All right, John Hope, thanks for that analysis. We want to remind you, if you need additional information and you're not near your TV set, you can always check us out online at weather.com. But for now, we head back to the studio for the rest of the country's weather with Paul.